Flowering and shade trees in the landscape require periodic pruning to control size and shape, to correct undesirable growth, and to remove low-hanging or damaged branches. Tools used in pruning include loppers, pruning saw, and hand pruners. The pruning tools for trees are the same as those required for ornamental shrubs. Hand pruners are used for branches 1/4 to 1/2 inch in diameter. Loppers are used for cuts more than 1/2 inch in diameter. And pruning saws are used to remove larger limbs. Pruning results in wounds. Trees close these wounds more rapidly if they're pruned in the early spring before they leaf out. The framework is bare, and you can easily see which branches need to be removed. When pruning is done in early spring, the plants are soon in full leaf and actively photosynthesizing, thus providing food and energy required for closing or sealing wounds after pruning. Early blooming trees will have reduced flowering if pruned in the early spring. That's because flower buds that developed last year will be removed during the pruning process. To avoid flower loss, you might choose to prune these trees after flowering. As a general rule, if a tree flowers before June 1st, prune it after flowering. If it flowers after June 1st, prune it before flower buds are visible. Proper pruning involves removing dead, dying, or living branches without damaging or removing the branch collar. Locating the branch collar and bark ridge is most important before making a cut. The bark ridge of the branch is the point where the branch meets the trunk or another branch. It is generally a raised area of bark tissue. The branch collar is a swelling at the base of the branch where it joins the trunk or a large branch. The pruning cut should be made just outside the bark ridge and the branch collar. Pruning cuts made at this location will allow the tree to develop callus tissue to seal off the wound. Leaving several inches or several feet of a branch beyond the bark ridge is a serious mistake. Callus tissue will not form from the stub wound. The stub dies back to the bark ridge, and often infection spreads deeper into the tree because the wound was not closed. Cuts made into the bark ridge and the collar are too close, and these flush cuts may remove tissue that allows the wound to seal properly. When the branch to be removed is greater than 1 inch in diameter, use the drop cut method to avoid damaging the tree. First, make a cut on the underside of the branch some distance from the trunk, about halfway through the branch being removed. Make the second cut through the branch 1 to 2 inches beyond the first cut. This will remove the weight of the branch and reduce the likelihood of damage to the trunk. Finally, remove the remaining stub just outside the bark ridge and the branch collar. If minor pruning is done every year, the job is manageable and the plant remains healthy. A beautiful plant form is retained and pruning cuts remain virtually unnoticed. However, when plants are neglected over a period of years, major pruning considerably changes the plant's form and may be detrimental to the plant's health. Follow these guidelines to obtain the best form and maintain the overall health of your trees. Corrective pruning of a tree at the time of planting sometimes works for the tree's good, but excessive pruning is not necessary. When pruning newly planted trees, do not remove the leader or central stem. Do not remove tips of branches unless they're growing to the tree's interior, creating a crowded condition. Remove the less dominant branch if two branches are growing at a tight angle. A regular pruning program begun while trees are young will prevent excessive repair work when they are older. When pruning young established trees, establish well-spaced branches when the tree has been planted for approximately 2 years. This allows stronger limbs and a better canopy to develop because sunlight is more evenly distributed through the tree. Prune young trees so that major scaffold branches are spaced vertically 18 to 24 inches apart, more for larger trees. Choose 5 to 7 main scaffolds that are evenly distributed radially. Leave these and remove other branches. In this way, you prevent any one branch from growing directly over another. Do not remove or cut back the central leader in the trees where it forms the trunk. Remove one of the two branches forming tight forks to allow the tree's normal shape to develop. If one of the balanced branches is not removed during early development, bark will accumulate in the angle of the two branches. Because this wood is weak, a heavy load of ice or strong wind may break one of these branches or split them apart. Remove or cut back any side branches that assume dominance. Remove or cut back these side branches to an out-facing bud or side branch lower than the leader. Remove branches that may develop into potential hazards, such as low-hanging branches that interfere with traffic. Pruning requirements for large mature trees are the same as those listed for younger trees. The major difference is size. Working in large trees can be dangerous. When pruning is necessary, it's best to obtain the service of a certified arborist. When pruning larger trees, remember that pruning cannot replace proper plant selection and planting under power lines. Large shade trees cannot develop properly under power lines and thus should not be planted there. Have them removed by a professional once they become too large. Do not top trees. Homeowners are sometimes conned into topping or dehorning trees as a rejuvenation process. Large branches are cut back, leaving only stubs, while all small branches are removed. This process is not recommended. The shape of the tree is ruined, and the large wounds develop large columns of internal decay and will not heal properly. Furthermore, the new growth is more susceptible to disease, insect attack, and storm damage. The tree's useful life is greatly reduced and is much more likely to fail in the future. Remove branches that cross or rub against other branches. Continued rubbing causes open wounds that enable diseases and insects to get inside the tree. If you see rubbing branches on a tree, you must choose which limb to remove. Suckers growing near the base of trees may rob the plant of nutrients and water. Therefore, they should be removed. To remove suckers, use a hand pruner close to the ground. Remove the sucker as close to its origin as possible. And finally, do not paint wounds. Wound dressing do not stop decay and actually increase the rate of decay. It's best to leave the tree to its own defenses.